Namato Ratana Tayasa. May I pay homage to triple gem, the Buddha, Dhamma, and the Sangha. My respect goes to my parents and my teachers. Hello, good evening, everyone. So today is Monday, the 12th of October, 2020, and this is Ajahn Sujan from Varapunya Meditation Center, Aberdeen, Scotland. I would like to welcome you for tonight's ongoing Dhamma talk on the Facebook page. And thank you everyone for listening and joining with us. Hello Manish from London, Margaret from Aberdeen, Colin from Aberdeen, and everyone from all around, locally and internationally. So today is the 12th of Monday, Monday the 12th of October. And usually we are all gathering here to listen the teachings of the Buddha and how these teachings are applicable in our day-to-day life. Sometimes you may find that the teachings are so relevant in our day-to-day life and so applicable to deal with different situations that we are in. And other times probably feeling like it's beyond my understanding or doesn't make sense to me. Or maybe Ajahn is explaining not clear. Or maybe something missing around like that. And which is again understandable. Even myself, I often found amazing that there are so many teachings, despite I may have gone through, I didn't understand at all. And later, over the period of a time, then again, I came to understand probably the basics of it. I would not say that I understood in its entirety. If I have understood in its entirety, completely, then I will be, or I am, the Arahat, a noble one who knows things as they are. But I'm not. I'm just a learner. I'm just a trainer. I'm just learning the teachings and training myself according to the teachings and learning to live happy life. Learning to live contented life and learning to live without any burdens. So we all, in a way, as a trainer, it's called a seeker, one who is learning, one who is training the path. And that is why, if you do not understand or it's not clear, then you can text me to find out furthermore. And I will try my best to explain or elaborate to you in my understanding. Sometimes probably from my own understanding, and other time probably I may have to refer to the scriptures for the correct definitions. Having said that, do not hesitate to contact or send a message to me. I most welcome all those questions and comments and suggestions. So with that, it gives me an opportunity to investigate further in the teachings of the Buddha. Because Buddha himself, he simply said that his teachings is not to simply take on and believe in, but his teachings should be take on, investigate, check it, whether that is applicable or not, whether that makes sense or not, whether it is in line with the natural truth or not, whether it is beneficial for you, for the other people, and for the both or not. And if that is beneficial for all parties, then take it as the teachings. Otherwise, you can discard even his teachings, even his instructions. So that's what a wonderful idea, that openness and inviting every one of us to investigate on the teachings. So he didn't have any doubts. The Buddha didn't have any fear and any confusion on what he was teaching. And that is the reason why over 2,500 years passed away, still his teachings become so relevant. And as the science and technology advance, his teachings become even more clearer and clearer. So that's why we are, and we should also investigate on things that we have listened. So that's why do not hesitate to raise the question, do not hesitate to ask the question and give your personal opinions and understanding on that. Because if every one of us has got different knowledge, different background, different understanding, different experiences, and each one of us looking at even a single teachings can be from the different angles. It's like when there is an accident and there are two people two people saw that accident and requested them to write a report. They will write from their own angles and perspectives what happened. So each one of us will have our own understanding on the teachings of the Dhamma, but that is not the reality yet. The reality is a person or someone who explains thoroughly about that accident without putting any colors, without adding any experiences or any thoughts, but purely as he sees what happened. And that is the reality that we are talking about, that we need to develop. And that state of reality that we can attain when we are able to tame, train, control this mind, which is formless, colorless, and yet living inside us, being a boss and ordering us to do this and to do that and not to do this and not to do that, and creating or encouraging us to have an attachment on different things that comes to contact with us. And that's why these are known as the hindrances, the nivaranas, hindrances that hinder our practice. Basically, it will not encourage us to practice, but encourage us to desire more and have an attachment. And the practice of a meditation is to understand these hindrances, and as we diminish the strength of the 5 hindrances, as sensual pleasure, ill will, sloth and torpor, restlessness and doubt, and then gradually we will attain the stages of jhanas and stages of understanding, and that lead to the liberation. Some people may present hindrances as bad, when we practice meditation. But in my understanding, hindrances are such a wonderful tool or friend, a noble friend, who basically teaching us to understand that we are not liberated yet. We are still bound to have a desire to see nice things, desire to hear sweet, soothing voices and nice wordings, needing a comfortable life and like that. So that's why these hindrances are basically a great teacher who is helping us to understand that how much the clutter occupied in our hearts and minds. Suppose I just remember a few stories. Like I think I have mentioned in a couple of weeks or months ago about this as well. There are people who, after gone for the meditations, or after having done some weeks or months of meditation, they normally would like to demonstrate themselves as the superheroes. Like, I have been doing meditation for this many years. You are just newcomers. Even like in the center, like whenever there are someone who have been practicing for a long time and someone who just newly, there is a possibility of a person who has been meditating would demonstrate themselves as a superior than anybody else, like that. At that moment, one who truly practitioner would recognize that mental state and overcome. But if there is no such hindrances, then we would not be able to recognize that how far I have to do, how far I have cultivated, how far I have developed in a meditation. So these are the measures to check. Doesn't matter how many years you've been meditating, and suddenly if something happens and you become a so quick temper, then there is something wrong. And something happens against your wish and you become a short temper, emotionally very down and stressed and anxious, can't sleep, and those are the symptoms of the hindrances that working in, kicking in. At that time, if we are really good, then we will be able to recognize them and will not be disturbed by them. But the very moment when it disturbs you, then that means it is suggesting that I haven't done good enough. So we need to develop a little bit more. Okay? So that's why in the practice of a meditation, although the attainment of the jhana, attainment of all the absorptions are not that essential, but if you attain, that encourages you to practice more. There is no downfall or bad thing attaining these states as long as you have no attachment for it, not holding on to it. So that's why jhana is basically a state of the mind that is fully become one-pointed on the object, and all the 5 hindrances are subside. At that moment, one would attain the first jhana, like that. And these jhanas again, as you practice along the way, you will attain up to the 4 jhanas. And after the 4 jhanas, there is a possibility of attaining the other supernatural powers, so-called as abhinyas, which means ability to listen ability to see the future, ability to know the past, ability to read others' mind, ability to show the magic, etc. That's not the ultimate goal of the Buddha's practice of the meditation. The Buddha's practice of a meditation is to eliminate all the asavas, all the tents. And that is the important factor. So that's why, as I said in following the nights, it is not necessary, but if you can attain, is good. But there are other ways that you can be enlightened too. Right? So, now yesterday I mentioned all the remaining 3 jhanas and explained it in a brief, that what are those attainments. And here someone may ask whether it is attainable for every one of us or not. The answer is that yes, it is attainable by any one of us, or anyone who has a diligent practice and determined to practice, then definitely that person would attain. But there are certain things to be followed, like going into the deep forest or a silent place, or the empty huts or empty houses. Basically going into a limited place where there is less distractions, or if possible, no distractions. And after that, having a composed and a sitting position, and having an object and meditating on that. And here when we talk about the objects, there are 40 types of objects that is categorized in the Visuddhimagga. And once you have picked up the object and working with that object, and particularly the breath, but there are other objects which again some of them will not conducive for the attainment of all the jhanas, but particularly the the breath as an object would help us to attain all the jhanas. Yeah. So once you have found the suitable place, and the second seated comfortably in a relaxed position, and then having an object and paying attention to that object would help to attain the jhanas. But one thing what you need to be mindful of, that the attainment of the jhanas is only possible when you are sitting, not at any other places, other postures. Only when you are sitting. So that's why, as long as your mind is absorbed or being a one-pointedness with the object, then you can attain the jhanas, and that's only possible when you are sitting. The rest of other time you won't get it. Okay, so that's why it is possible that any one of us who has got the great faith in it, ability to attain the jhanas. And now again, I just want to inform you that there are 3 types of jhanas, as in a later sub-commentaries or masters have said that there are 3 different types of jhanas. Number 1 is called a Samatha jhana. And this is again based on the concept, any object that you take on as a conceptual object. Right? That's all conceptual objects, and all the 40 types of objects are conceptual objects. And you simply paying your attention to on it and concentrating on that, and with that concentration you will get the calmness, you will get this insight, serenity and happiness, and that is known as a Samatha jhana. This doesn't lead to the liberation. So that's why, remember, there are some people may have said that the jhana is important for the attainment of the nibbana or the enlightenment. But here we have to classify, or we have to understand that there are different levels of the jhanas. And the second jhana is known as a Vipassana jhana, or also known as Lakkanu Peka jhana, means understanding the three characteristics, or a Samanya Lakkana. Understanding the three characteristics, and your mind is fully absorbed in that reality pertaining to what is happening. There's a momentary jhanas there in here. And this momentary after momentary jhanas, with this understanding that everything must change, and anything that is subject to change, we cannot claim it as a truth, the permanent entity. And that sort of understanding is known as the Vipassana jhana. And here you will be realizing that all the jhanas are basically impermanent. That is known as Vipassana jhana. Understanding that everything must change, the impermanent of the nature of impermanence of all the things, an understanding of that. And the third one is called a Lokottar jhana, means the supramundane jhanas. And the supramundane jhanas, again, is about a person who has attained the noblehood and understood the jhanas. And having said that, there are plenty of other noble people or noble ones didn't have any jhanas, although they may have to pass through it, but they do not harbor or do not cling on to it. And this is Lokottar jhanas. It suggests that in order to be liberated or in order to be enlightened, we don't have to have the Samatha jhanika, the jhana, or the attained absorption by concentrating on any objects as a permanent entity or a permanent object of concentration. But basically you are having that object as just the foundation, and you're working on that. So that's why there are three different types of the jhanas that we have to understand. But again, the problem is that it is not intellectual exercise that we are talking. Although it is a necessary that we do have to have some form or some level of intellectual understanding of these things, but we shouldn't be hanging on to it that I should attain a certain levels of the jhanas in order to be liberated. We do not need to hold such views. All what we need to understand that continuity of the practice is the key to the success. Practice makes the perfect. And practice makes you realize the true nature. And that is what we need to develop. And that is the most important things, rather than having an exercise on this intellectual knowledge. That's why I always hold my view or my attitude that Buddhist philosophy is not a Buddhism as long as one hasn't put it into practice and understand it by their own real understanding. The very moment when they understood the teachings at that time, then they truly realize the true teachings of the Buddha that will help them to shape their life and will bring happiness in this life, and as well as, if not enlightened in this life, but will lead to the good life hereafter when the breakup of this body. So that's why it's really important, the practice, not the knowledge. Although we do have to have a map, but we shouldn't be holding on to the map. Or we do have to have a raft to cross the river, but once we have crossed, then we shouldn't be taking the raft on our shoulders. We should leave that raft behind at the bank of the river and walk. That is the concept we have to understand and take on. That all the knowledge that we read, that we hear, this is the form of a raft that will help us to cross this ignorance and to get the other side and leave all the knowledge, all the understanding, and keep on walking and practicing. So with this, finally, then we will be attaining the real happiness, real nibbana, real peace. So I offer this as a tonight's reflection on, again, the right concentration or samma samadhi. And thank you everyone for listening. May you all be well and happy. May you all be blessed, and may the Buddha Dhamma Sangha bless you for good health and successful life. In a few moments' time, we're going to have a chanting and guided meditation. You're most welcome to join with us. Until then, good night and see you shortly. Sadhu. Thank you.